Is there such a thing as writer's block?
Well, what does it take to be super creative over the course of a career, over 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years?
4 specific nootropics that you can use to improve your creativity. 20% of scientists and researchers take prescription drugs in order to increase their performance in some way.
It's very hard to be an artist and to survive over any reasonable period of time.
Creativity now is as important in education as literacy.
I think the writer's block is
First
the
step
best
is
way
not
in
about
the world
finding
to
the perfect words. It's about filling your
We're going to cure writer's block.
The Writer's Block Podcast.
Welcome to the Writer's Block Podcast, episode 6. I'm your host, Aaron, and on today's episode, I sit down with the ever-amazing Alabama Blonde, who is a Melbourne-based fashion designer, creative director, musician, and artist. You can find her on Instagram at Alabama Blonde, spelled exactly as it sounds, and I highly recommend you check out her website at www.alabamablonde.com. Now, if you're anything like me and know absolutely nothing about fashion design, you probably already have this image concocted in your brain of what it is, what it's about, and what it looks like. But trust me when I say Alabama Blonde as a brand is a complete opposite. And you only need to check out her social media or the introduction video on her website to see exactly what I'm talking about. And again, I highly recommend it. She's an incredibly talented artist who, as she puts it, has lived many lives like a cat. And I really, really enjoy our conversation. As per usual, any links to stuff we talk about on the show will go into the show notes at www.thewritersblock.co. Hope you enjoy it. Alabama Blonde, thanks for coming on the podcast.
You're so welcome.
We finally got there. We've been trying to organise this for quite a few months now.
Oh, yeah, definitely at least a couple.
You've been a busy woman.
Yes.
Overseas and doing movies and all sorts of things.
Yeah, a few things.
We'll definitely get to that, but I thought first we'll take it back and we'll go back to quite a few years ago.
Yeah.
And let's hear your story and sort of where it all starts. Actually, before we get there, let me just say that this, like, with the last few podcasts that I've done, I've had at least a little bit of knowledge of what we're talking about.
Yes.
I have no idea when it comes to fashion design, any of that. So if I say anything that's really stupid,
Okay.
Please pull me up on it. Call me a dickhead, whatever.
Sure.
But yeah, let's just talk about where you grew up and schooling and early stories, how you got into music. And
Yeah. Well, I mean, I grew up in Sydney. Mm-hmm. My apologies. But I moved to New York when I was about 22, 23. And I was studying, once again, my apologies. I was studying acting at a school over there. But I ended up basically replying to this ad in Craigslist. Pretty much for this young producer who was just wanting to put down a demo. And so I applied to the ad or replied, and I ended up getting the gig. And then the sound engineer was just really surprisingly impressed with. I guess I'm sort of someone who I'm like, I don't know why you'd ever go into a vocal booth and dick around, and I sort of just went in and did what I could do.
Yeah.
And anyway, then they basically ended up giving me a job there as a session singer. But then I suppose I discovered that I had a pretty mean scream on myself, and ended up, like, ironically doing a lot of screaming and sort of metally punk stuff for a lot of rappers, which was really weird.
Really?
Yeah, really random. I guess maybe they potentially liked the gravelly sort of tone of my voice. So I ended up basically moving into music from there, and writing a lot of hooks mainly for rappers at the time. I mean, I was on the side of working there. I was in a couple of metal and punk bands over there. I ended up teaching myself guitar, but also like very long days in the studio, or I should actually say like nights into mornings, because people over there really like to record at like 3 a.m.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So because I was in studios so much, I basically started hand sewing, and I ended up so random. I have so many bizarre stories from that time, but I ended up smoking my first joint with Wu-Tang Clan, which was I couldn't feel my legs. I was like pretty much stuck on the floor watching Jennifer Lopez in the cell until I finally got my knees to start to bend
Is that
again.
the one where the horse gets chopped up?
I think so.
Yeah.
There was so much stuff going on, and I was really concerned that I was going to not be able to walk again.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and then one of the girls from the Pussycat Dolls saw some of my little creations, and I ended up dressing one of her opening acts, like they were doing some sort of tour. I don't know, I wasn't really following them. Yeah, and then pretty much when I came back here, I continued to play in like an array of bands for many years, but then I was really into sort of whatever was going with this fashion sort of stuff, but I wanted to sort of figure out whether I actually wanted to do it. And then I went to RMIT, thought I'd never do it again because I hated it. And
Where did the initial interest come from? Like you said, you just decided to start sewing in the studio.
Well, I think it's weird. I actually don't really know. I used to do, when I was over there, I guess, I don't even know why the hell I started doing this, but I started sticking a lot of like fake butterflies to my face and on my like legs and stuff. So I was just sort of walking around. I don't know why I did that, but I did. And then I ended up starting to, I suppose there was this guy who owned this incredible, I don't know what you'd call it, but it was a store where he basically made birds.
Right.
And I don't know why. I bought like a whole heap of crows, and I'd like wear them in my hair, and I'd wear them on my shoulders. And then I started basically hand sewing all of these feathers into tulle and bedding and shit, and wearing it around the city as like tutus and capes.
Brilliant.
I can only imagine I looked like such a psychopath. But for some reason, I suppose, in New York, some people sort of dug whatever it was that I was doing without really, I was just doing it, I suppose, as a form of expression. Then it sort of, I think I also have always struggled to find clothes that I actually like. Not that I actually ever wear anything related to feathers anymore, but I really struggled to find clothes that I liked, and so that's definitely where it also came from. And I'm really impatient as well. So anything I work with now, like a lot of leather and a lot of latex, you kind of have to get it right the first time you do it because you can't unpick it or anything. Once it's fucked, it's fucked. So I kind of like that I either have to get it right on the first go or I have to make it work, which suits me. Yeah. So that, and then, basically pretty much I started making garments for friends in punk bands or whatever. And then all of a sudden, honestly, before I knew it, I had,
And this is when you're back here?
This is when I was back here in Melbourne. Yeah. So I was pretty much playing in punk bands, casting like TV commercials. I was a model agent for a little while, but that got very old very quickly. And then pretty much, I guess, because of my Instagram, sort of like stylists or photographers used to see it, and then they'd ask me if they could loan stuff for shoots. And then I was sort of like, what is going on? And then, before I knew it, it kind of actually had become something.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot there that we could go into.
I know, I'm like a cat. I've lived so many lives.
Yeah, absolutely. So what was the reception like, I guess? Because your designs aren't your average Monday to Friday.
No, I mean, they are to me in my
Yeah.
head, but yes, to the average person, I suppose. I mean, a lot of people definitely think that they're, I guess, like garments that you wear for like special occasions or whatever, or for like, I mean, I've definitely had a lot of musicians particularly for tours or for events or for shoots, approach me about loans and that sort of stuff. I suppose in sort of the little bubble that I live in, it all feels very normal and day to day.
Yeah.
But I am aware that it's not really.
Well, this is great because this actually answers one of my questions.
Oh, does it?
I've wanted to know for a long time because, you would see, mainstream catwalk shows and whatnot. And I would always say to myself, I'd be like, where do these people wear? Like, who buys these products?
right.
And where would they wear them?
Yeah.
But then,
Yeah. Some
see.
people are totally like, I mean, I think that was the nice thing. Like, I think there are pockets in Melbourne for sure where
Yep.
people are like, their day-to-day is very, I suppose, more opulent than most people would kind of consider in a day-to-day sort of mindset. But I think when I went to LA recently, it was everywhere I went.
Right.
It was kind of this sort of just slotted in.
Yeah.
People were like, yes, that's a coffee outfit.
Right. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I love it. I think it's great.
Yeah, it's
I think
fun.
It's great.
It's fun.
And this isn't your full-time gig though, is it?
I pretty much juggle. I juggle this brand with casting. So I cast. I guess because I work as a freelance casting agent, it's quite handy because like if I'm super busy or if I'm in LA or I've done a bit of work in Berlin. I just sort of won't take any jobs. But then at the beginning of this year, I cast a Chinese feature film. They were out here to do some stuff with that. And then after that, I did a Chinese. He's actually like a top, really like well-known chef.
Okay.
In Hong Kong. And he wanted to shoot a video clip because I guess he also dabbles in music.
Mm-hmm.
So he wanted to shoot a video clip here. So I cast that for him
Right.
as well. So I'll do things like this. I did Neighbours for a little while. I've done some shows for the ABC. So I'll do casting and then I teach on top of doing my brand. I teach basically like script analysis.
Right.
I think because I spend a lot of time in casting like rooms, I tend to teach sort of actors pretty much just how to break down a script, particularly for an audition.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And you enjoy that side of
I
things?
love
Yeah.
it. I
Yep.
actually love, I think one of my favorite, I teach teenagers,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is really important to me, mainly because I think being a teenager these days is such a tough gig. I can't imagine what it would be like to have grown up with social media. And I think for me, because I am very comfortable with who I am, I'm really comfortable in my skin. I think I really enjoy hopefully giving them some sort of also empowerment and perspective on this like fucked up world that they're trying to enter.
Yeah.
So I actually also really enjoy just simply being around teenagers and I suppose reminding them that social media is like a load of shit and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. So I think I will always hopefully be able to find time to teach kids and empower them and that sort of stuff and help them navigate this fucking weird world that we live in. Because I mean, half of them I don't really wear makeup because it drives me mad, but I am mind blown by how much makeup these kids put on just to literally come to a class where we're just going to be doing like improvisation, like space jump and all that sort of shit.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I also really like that aspect of it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. So I went onto your website. The other night. Speaking of social media, like I saw you post about you've got a newly renovated website.
Yes.
Looks awesome.
Thank you.
The first thing that comes up is like video footage.
Yeah.
Of what I presume is one of your shows.
Yeah.
Or
it's the first show. It was the launch show that I did a year and a half ago.
Right. And I was mesmerised.
Oh,
awesome.
awesome.
I was like, this is awesome. Like,
Yeah.
it was just so clearly I live a sheltered life now and I'm a bit of a hermit.
Yeah.
But you've got, it's like in this underground warehouse type thing.
Yeah.
You've got like a punk band playing.
Yeah.
You've got models walking down the catwalk.
Yeah.
Smoking cigarettes
Yeah,
and drinking
drinking
and
beer.
Yeah. I'm like, this is crazy. This is
Making
like
out with
mayhem.
each other.
Yeah, there you go. I'm like, this is awesome. And I'm like, I need to see one of these shows.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It sounds like a hell of an experience.
Yeah, it was cool. I mean, I think because I'd been asked to show at Berlin Fashion Week, I hadn't really launched here. And so I've got a couple of friends who own like a PR marketing sort of company, and they were like, you can't, I'd met them a few years before, and they were like, you have to launch something here before you go to Berlin. And I was like, okay, cool. But I suppose the good thing about that show was it was so innately me. There were no sort of expectations. I pretty much, didn't know what I was doing, but at the same time I sort of did, mainly because I know sort of who I am and what I want to project onto the world. So yeah, we literally found a warehouse space, which unfortunately is now like a smart desk thing in Collingwood.
Of course it is.
It was fucking brilliant. And it was such a good space. We could do whatever we wanted with it.
Yeah.
It was like for sure one of the best kind of experiences of my life. Hectic as fuck, but yeah, it was everything that I could ever have wanted in a launch.
Yeah. And you put it all together yourself?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So those Motivilica, they're the band. I grew up in some bands with Brody who unfortunately they're not together anymore, but they we actually opened the show with a jazz singer, and he was standing in the middle of the crowd and basically started singing this jazz song, and then he was sort of interrupted by this really heavy punk band who, I mean, they still are one of my favorite punk bands I've ever heard. And everyone was telling me that it would, like, people would get quite I suppose maybe offended, and it would be a little bit too much and people might leave, and it was just kind of like this thing of like, well, I suppose let them leave. Like it's that weird thing. It's kind of like when I was going to Download, and I don't understand why people wouldn't like that music. It just seems really obvious to me that this would be a good choice.
Yeah.
But people loved it, and they loved Motivilica. They loved Connor, who started it off, and we had a really great DJ then after that. So yeah, I mean, I think it's also your responsibility as sort of an artist and a creative to also challenge people's thoughts and opinions as well. At the next show that I did, I did it at Old Melbourne Jail this time last year. I was like, it has to be completely different, because I can't just keep because it's kind of not fair to me, and it's not even fair to the people who follow me, because I think you do have to challenge what people's taste is and thoughts and all that sort of stuff. So
yeah. And music's a big part of your shows,
it's
isn't it?
so I mean, I don't know why you would just have a DJ to show, but I guess that's what people normally do. But I've always had live music at every show. So the next one I had a Yelena from Outright opened screaming on her own in the middle of the prison, screaming a Bikini Kill song, which was fucking awesome. I had my mate Mel play some really stunning piano, and then this sort of goth band played. And then at the show that we did after that, I had a gospel choir, and then I got up and did some punk stuff with the gospel choir.
Brilliant.
So it's been it's been really awesome for me, and I think for everyone as well. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And is that, I mean, obviously you wouldn't want to, in that kind of environment, have a DJ. But is there a reason why music is so important?
I think it's because I think it's just because I grew up playing music, and I love live music.
Yeah.
You know, I just love it. I mean, it's really the only reason that I ever go out is to see bands. Otherwise, I don't know why you'd want to be around humans. But I just think I feel like for me, because like a lot of what I do is very personal. A lot of my inspiration revolves around sort of heartbreak, be it like really great heartbreak or devastating heartbreak. I just feel like music is so connected to me, but it has to be live. It can't be a DJ, because I just don't feel like it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Seems really obvious to me, but I can understand. Like, I mean, I don't think like most of my budget will always go to sound for the bands and lighting and stuff. But yeah, I love it. All forms of it.
Yeah. Well, speaking of your live show and heartbreak, when I first went to your website, and this was back when we were first going to do this. The bio on your website, it reads that your work lends itself towards an exploration of identity, rituals, and human experience. It asks the question, can we embed emotion into fabric? You've recently added a bunch of memoirs to this, but originally there was just the one. And that I just happened to stumble on, like by clicking on a link. And I read it and I thought it was amazing. And that was the Comfort that Disturb the Comfortable. Collection link. And the blog was about the Valium collection. And that was a really sort of deep insight into just how much emotion and storytelling goes into your live shows and your designs. I've talked in previous episodes about the idea of the tortured artist. And why some of the best ideas come from, such dark places. How important is it for you to have that personal experience, the emotion, the heartbreak, translate not only into your designs but your live shows as well?
I don't think I'd do it if it didn't. Like it's kind of it's completely sort of intrinsic. I don't even know if that's the right word, but I can't have one without the other. And it doesn't always have to be my own heartbreak. It can also be sort of, I suppose, I think I'm a fairly empathetic person, and I do tend to be surrounded by a lot of people that have experienced a lot of injustice, and I'm someone who's, I suppose, one of my triggers is definitely sort of injustice and identity. I think I was given the privilege of having parents who very much supported me in even sort of figuring out who I was as a person and what I wanted to do and how I wanted to express myself. I never sort of had to be anything other than myself as long as I wasn't being a dickhead. So even, when I was going through this weird phase of sticking shit on butterflies on my face and whatever, it wasn't sort of like if I was meeting my dad for dinner, he'd be like, can you not do that thing to your face? It was just pretty much as long as he felt like it was coming from a truthful place, it was acceptable. And I've got a lot of friends and I've come in contact with a lot of people through my work who haven't had that same sort of acceptance from either their family or society for their gender, for their identity, for their, even just simply choices with where they want to go in their lives. And I think that that's always been something. I don't think I could produce everything if it wasn't hopefully saying something that could bring something positive to the world, or make people think, especially with a lot of the gender talk that has happened, thank God, over the last sort of year and a half. I think it's such an important conversation for people to have, and if I can facilitate that conversation, then I'm more than happy to do that. Because I think, particularly sometimes in Australia, things are sort of brushed off as like, sort of she'll be right, all that sort of stuff. And it's kind of like, well, some people won't be, and sometimes all you have to do is fucking ask people what they're going through. So yeah, definitely. I know a show that I did last year with the gospel choir, that was all based around gay marriage and acceptance of identity and gender and all that sort of stuff. It didn't have a lot to do, I suppose, with my experience personally, aside from the fact that I think, I very much, I do get asked, are you in a relationship? When are you going to get married? Blah, 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 all this sort of stuff. And I'm like, well, I'm honestly really married to my work. And then it just got me thinking about, I suppose, all of my friends' experiences with identity and those questions and shit. And that's when we basically put on for everyone who, I suppose, their partner isn't accepted, we basically put on this big latex wedding at Yaya's to basically, I suppose, acknowledge all of those relationships and identities that aren't always accepted and are judged. Yes.
Beautiful.
Oh my God, I just talked so much. I'm so sorry.
That's great. I love it.
Yeah.
That's what people are listening for.
Yeah, right.
You recently got back from LA.
Yes.
What was going on over there?
Well, actually...
You ditched me for LA.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I did. It's true. But I pretty much, with this, with that collection that I just spoke about, it was called Matrimony. And along with, it was, and this is always how everything starts with me. It starts as like, oh, we'll just do this and just do that. And then ends up being like monstrous. But it was meant to be a film about matrimony and basically taking down the patriarchy in the church and all of those institutions that think that they can dictate who we are. So it was originally meant to be a film taking down all of those houses. And then it turned into a show as well, with the gospel choir and all this sort of stuff. But there's an amazing magazine based in LA called Subvert, who's been very supportive of me since the beginning. And they invited me to go over and showcase the film in LA. So that's why I originally went there. And then pretty much from the moment I landed, my whole world opened up, and I worked with people who I've completely idolized since the beginning, and just had like the most life-changing 2 weeks of my life, which was amazing. I think I shot something like 6 shoots, 2 videos, and put on a show, which within a week, which is kind of insane, but totally works with me as a person and the way I function. So
and this just all came out of the blue.
Yeah, it all came when I landed. I mean, I reached out to people. Like, I'm not very good at holidaying. I don't understand how to have a holiday. So if I travel, I do tend to kind of go, like, what can I do here? Because I'm not really I would never go to the beach or sit on the sand or anything like that. I need to be, like, doing stuff.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yep.
And I did.
And you did. You're running seminars as well, is that right? Is that something you did recently?
That I did, because I've been offered a position teaching. I've studied, I suppose, with sort of acting and movement and voice work. I've studied for like 17 years. And I suppose through my experience, even with people, I've sort of developed a couple of techniques, which I think are sort of good for performers and stuff. And I just sort of, without me really having much control, I've ended up, being asked to teach at a school in LA. And pretty much they had a series where they were going around to the major cities and doing these seminars, and pretty much they give away 2 scholarships a year to go and study in LA for 10 weeks. I think it's 10 weeks. I should know this information, but I don't. But I'm basically I'm on the faculty there for the programs. And so that's why I was doing the seminars.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Does that take up a lot of time, or is that something?
Oh, I mean, it does sort of take up a lot. I think the time that it takes is, I think I really respect teachers and I really respect good teachers. And I think the only thing that takes up a lot of time, it's not so much time, it's more energy. Because when I'm in a room with students, I am, especially because it is kind of performing arts and stuff, they're sort of being vulnerable and putting a piece of themselves on the table, and I really respect that. And I realize I have to be coming from a place where I'm able to give them the best experience that they can and give them the best feedback and all that sort of stuff. So I suppose for me, because I teach like 2.5 days a week, but those 2.5 days are like big days for me in terms of working with humans who are in a particularly sort of vulnerable state, I suppose. So I guess that's the only thing that takes up my time, but at the same time I fucking love it, so I don't really mind. And
you been working on another movie?
I've got
recently?
it. So I've got we were meant to start it in January, but we were going to shoot it in Sydney actually, but we've actually moved. It's a short film actually that we will end up shooting in LA in July. And then I have another person who's approached me about doing a sort of what will start as a web series, which I was meant to go over to New York in May, but I don't think I will get there in time. So I think we're also going to move that to July
Right.
as well, and shoot them over there.
Can you tell us any?
I don't think I can. I'm
Really?
actually, this is the worst. I'm the worst. I shouldn't actually say that out loud, but I am not very good with confidentiality. Because I just, like, with some I am, with some I'm not. But I'm not really allowed to, I'm definitely not allowed to say anything about the web series. And the other one, to be honest, I don't really know a whole lot about. I've pretty much been brought on to assist with casting,
Right.
But then also to help produce it,
Right.
just because I've produced quite a few things. And I think I'm a pretty relaxed person, so I think people tend to like working with me because they just know that I'm never going to hit that like sort of hectic maniac freak out stage, because I'm quite aware that I'm not practicing brain surgery, you know.
And you enjoy doing the casting
Love.
as opposed to, doing the designing and that.
I love doing casting when I suppose I have freedom.
Yep.
I don't love casting when I don't have freedom or when the material isn't that meaty. But, a lot of the non-meaty stuff is the stuff that pays well, that allows you to be able to create the stuff that you're actually passionate about. Yeah. But I do love, God, actors and anyone and models, anyone in a casting situation, they're so vulnerable, and I think I'm someone who's very attracted to vulnerability. And so I do love doing it. But if you're doing I've cast a few TVCs, and being in a room and seeing actors like every 5 minutes from like 8:30 till 6:30 is a very long day.
I can imagine years ago I did some extra work and it was long days. Long days, yeah.
Totally.
It was
It's so
crazy.
full on. Yeah.
It's kind of fun though.
It is fun.
Yeah.
It's pretty fucking easy money. And I think if you haven't been on a film set before, I think it's kind of cool to see how it all works.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you get free food generally sometimes.
Yes. Lots of free food, which was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Meet some other weirdos.
And do you get do you get a lot of freedom on those things? In a sense, do you get to, put your little spin on things? And,
I can always put my spin on
Yeah.
things, but are people going to go with my spin? Probably not.
Yeah.
But I at least give it a crack. But anything sort of fashion related and that sort of stuff, or for sort of these short films and things, those projects are ones that I really enjoy, just because I think they're also saying more than advertising.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, when you're doing your designing, your clothing design,
Yes.
where does that happen? Does that happen here?
It happens here at
Right
this
here?
very desk.
This is your little creative hub. It's
This
cool.
is-
I like it.
This is totally my creative hub.
And what makes this little area special to you?
Oh, fuck, I don't know. Well, I think, to be completely honest, aside from like my home, like with my mum and that sort of stuff, this is like the first house I think or this is an apartment, where I've actually felt like that I'm home.
Yep.
Which is, I've, lived in roommate situations for years. And this, this living situation with one of my best friends who I adore, who's also an artist, this feels like home. So I suppose the energy in this space, I'm very, 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 very affected by energy, particularly spaces, furniture, whatever's going on really affects me. And this is the first place that I think I've ever lived where I actually feel like I'm at home and I can be myself and create stuff. So I feel very, very, very lucky.
It feels very homely.
Yeah, it's
as soon as
weird.
you walk in.
Yeah, we both just I think have such similar taste. I mean, we're surrounded by. I've got a whole cupboard there full of candles because I spent like over $1,000 on candles for my first show and really only used about, I don't know, like maybe $300 worth of them.
Is that
So I
the-
have like
the
a lot.
infamous vagina candles.
Oh,
No?
they're over there. There's a couple over there. The vagina candles.
Vagina candles.
No, my brother was mortified.
I can imagine.
Which is fair enough. But yeah, I think for me, because I'm not really, I kind of like darkness.
Yep.
So all that sort of stuff, this place works for me.
Yeah. What's one thing in this little space here that you couldn't work without?
Oh, I mean, I've got my cauldron over there. See, sitting on the edge. My cauldron, and then that's like a little altar, which I bought in Pennsylvania at a church, supply store.
Okay.
Not that I'm religious. I'm the complete opposite, but I fucking am obsessed with religious artifacts. Mainly because I think so much of Christianity came from witchcraft, which I find so fucking interesting. So, yeah, I would say that is very important to me. Yeah. There's loads. I mean, I'm very lucky because Abby, who I live with, she collects very old books on natural history.
I was looking at them
and stuff
before.
like that. So there's a lot of stimulation, I suppose, in here.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I find it to be like clean and sparse. They're the first pair of pants that I made over there, actually.
On the back of the...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
They're quite sharp.
They're very sharp. I based them off of a mohawk.
Right, yep.
And you can't wear them outside because they're technically a weapon.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's good. It's good times.
Talk us through your day to day. I can imagine it's
Oh my
quite
God.
different, but
It's-
do you have an
I have
average day to day?
absolutely no schedule whatsoever. Unless I'm like, if I'm working on something, like when I was doing this film with the Chinese, that was really, really hectic.
Yeah.
And I would have to get up. But I'd have to get up really early in order to like go to the gym or do yoga. But that was, I mean, we were only shooting for 4 weeks, and 2 of those weeks I worked pretty much 90 hours, which was insanity. So I think for me, which I also think works quite well for me, is work comes in these really hectic bursts where I don't really sleep, which is fine. And then I sort of crash, see bands, drink way too much whiskey for like then another couple of weeks, and then work sort of comes in a huge burst. So that's sort of, I think my routine is almost like hectic bursts and then nothing.
Right.
Yeah, but like I don't know, I think I'm such a contradiction of myself, so it's really hard to explain it, because I can be someone who does not have a schedule, but then like at the moment, because I'm trying to get a lot of stuff done, my schedule is very tight, and I'm so obsessive compulsive. I have like everything written in my diary with these little boxes next to them, and I have to tick them off.
Brilliant.
And get it all done. And that's like, yeah. But then at the same time, I can be a complete like nomad, not know what's going on or where I'm going to be. I'm not very good at making plans. I think it's why I'm never really in relationships, because people will be like, can we do something on Friday night? And I'll be like,
Not sure.
right now we can. But like it could get to 4:00 on Friday and I might just not want to anymore. So yeah, I think I'm too used to being on my own actually.
Yeah. How do you go juggling like those crazy hours? Like,
I'm a complete insomniac, so I actually am fine. Like, I can handle it very well for short bursts, I suppose. So, I think because even my ideas for shows like Matrimony, we like pretty much once I had the idea, I think I designed and made the collection and shot the film and put on the show within like 5 weeks. And for those 5 weeks, at the same time, I was working at the ABC, casting a TV series. And I literally 100% only ran off of like 2 to 3 hours sleep a night, but I was perfectly functional.
Yeah.
But then after that, for like September, for the first 2 weeks of September, I think I slept pretty much for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But then I'm ready to go again, I suppose. I love life and I love living and I love creating. And I think if I'm not doing that, then I get quite lethargic because I just get a bit bored of existence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds fair.
Yeah, totally.
Do you have any sort of wind down routines? Wine,
Smoke
whiskey?
a joint, have a whiskey, and watch reality TV.
Yeah.
Because I'm fucking obsessed with those horrendous dating shows and bullshit shows. So that's literally what I will do.
Yeah.
Maybe go and see, like, I mean, I think we're pretty lucky in Melbourne that there's generally, like, every now and again, like, festivals at the Retreat or whatever. That's sort of another way, I suppose. But, yeah, that's definitely how I wind down. But I don't have any whiskey here right now because I'm not drinking for 2 weeks because I really need to get on top of shit.
Yeah. It affects the
Yes.
creativity.
I just think I've become a bit foggy.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and a bit dusty, and I am like an extremeless. Like I'm an all or nothing person in everything that I do at all times. So that's why I'm like, yeah. At the moment, I'm doing a really hectic liver cleanse, which I'm on day 1, and I'm.
Go you.
I'm struggling so badly, but I'm determined.
Good thing I didn't bring a box of wine for you because I was going to.
Yeah, no, it is a good thing. It's a bad thing and a good thing.
Bad thing because it could have been sitting here waiting
Oh
for
my
you at the
God.
end of the 30 days.
And I would have found a reason to drink it. I would have been like, I'll start again tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's only day 1 anyway. Yeah.
What's been some, I reckon there'd be quite a few personal highlights.
Definitely the first show that I ever put on, because we'd sold, I think, 75 tickets before the show, and then on the night of the show we ended up selling out at 350.
Wow.
And it was like, it was incredible, and it was a dedication to my dad. My whole first collection was a dedication to my dad, who passed away like 7 years ago, and so it was such a beautiful fucking moment, because it was called Testament. And so that was definitely a highlight. I think showcasing in Berlin was a highlight as well. And then I think it's such. I think what I do is such a privilege because I've gotten to meet so many beautiful humans who have lived such fucking awe-inspiring existences against so many odds. So every time I come in contact with one of those people, I feel extremely privileged. Every time I put together a cast for a show, I feel really, I guess, humbled by how incredible they all are and how incredible their stories are. And then definitely in LA, I think I'm definitely quite, like, I don't really have a problem, like, emailing my, like, idols to be like, do you want to work with me.
Why not? Like, that's-
Exactly. I'm like, I've got
What's the
nothing to
worst-
lose.
exactly,
Could
what's the
just
worst that can
chuck
happen?
in the junk.
Yeah.
But I did work with a number of people who I've had so much respect for, and yeah, I think they're sort of my highlights. I
Yeah.
think like Dita Von Teese will just get to see my work tomorrow, and just the fact that she could even get a glimpse of what I do is like pretty hot. So yeah.
And I guess it's these experiences and interactions with the people that you meet that keep you motivated and sort of push you to do your best work.
Totally. Oh, 100%. 100%. I'm like, yeah, I've had amazing support from incredible people. It's also been a lot of dickheads, but that's fine. I did a cleanse and they've all left. Yeah.
What music are you listening to lately?
Do you know what? I saw Fever 333 at Download, and their like fucking live show blew my fucking mind.
Yeah.
So I'm all over them at the moment. Girl Pusher, who I mentioned before, I love. I just put out a short video, and they let us use one of their tracks. Ugh, heaven. I would say that I'm always a Bikini Kill fan. I fucking love Bikini Kill. So I'd say they're sort of that's kind of what I'm listening to. Do you know what I've also had the weirdest resurgence of listening to Offspring, which is so bizarre, but it just started with Kids Are Alright. And then all of a sudden, before I knew it, I was like, whoa, I've like literally now been like listening to this for like an
It's
hour.
got so many memories.
Yeah, I mean that must be why. But so I've also been listening to a lot of Offspring, which has
Yeah.
been kind of random, but I'm not going to apologise for it.
No, don't.
Yeah, and my friend Yelena outright, I just think that all of their stuff is incredible, but I really love the new stuff that they've just put out.
Okay, yeah, I haven't heard it.
Yeah, it's so fucking good.
Sorry,
and I
Joel.
think I love that for some reason they're like, you know, all of their work has a message, and a really strong message and a relevant message, but without being preachy. Do you know, like, just it's so, yeah, it's incredible. So yeah,
Awesome.
I'd say that's kind of they're my jams at the moment.
Yeah. Fever 333. I have listened to their music. I thought it was okay.
Yeah, right.
Thought it was okay, but I knew they would put on a sick live show. Just from Jason, the singer's old band, Let Live.
Yeah.
Who were nuts.
Yeah.
Nuts live. So I knew that'd be good. And just listening to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't think I didn't enjoy the music as much as I wanted to.
I must confess, I've only ever heard them live.
Yeah.
So I don't. I guess.
But now, if you go back and listen to the album now, you'll enjoy it more.
Yeah. Well, he also he was someone who like basically talked about like, you know, chicks in like metal and rock and stuff, and how they have a place there, and they shouldn't feel unsafe at gigs and that sort of stuff. And I feel like, I don't know, I am very much someone who, if people have a platform, I feel like you have a responsibility to use it. And so anyone like that, I'm immediately going to be like, fuck yeah, you have my full support, because yeah, I just think it's important. But yeah, they blew me away live. I'll be interested to see if I have the same reaction. I actually like it's so dumb, but it's quite funny, I suppose, especially with my stuff. It's been worn by a lot of pop singers who I don't really have a connection to, and so I'm kind of like, well, half the time I don't know who they are, and then a tattooist who I have mad respect for messaged me about buying a pair of pants, and I had this huge fangirl moment over her. And then I filmed Fever 333, I filmed his speech, and then he wrote back and said, I hope you enjoyed the show. And I was literally like, fucking Lemmy had messaged me from the grave.
That's
I was
awesome.
like, yes.
How good's that?
I have to show you my Lemmy tattoo, actually. I've got Lemmy as Jesus tattooed on my thigh.
Yeah.
And then I'm getting Ozzy Osbourne as Mary tattooed on my other thigh, except Ozzy's not shaded yet.
Yep.
but we'll get there.
Get
We'll
there. It's a work in progress.
Yeah, always a work in progress.
Did they play at Download?
No, cancelled. But I was sort of like, some people were really upset about it. I wasn't, to be honest, that upset about it because I've seen like Ozzy and Sabbath and all that sort of stuff ages.
Yeah,
So they weren't really who I was going for anyway.
Yeah. All right. Let's wrap it up. We've got 5 pretty quick questions.
Okay. I'm ready.
What, if anything, would you do differently if you knew your rent and bills were paid?
Oh, fuck. If my rent and bills were paid, oh, shit. It would just be all stuff for my mum.
Yep.
I just, like, yeah, it'd just be all about my mum. It'd be making sure that she could travel and making sure I could fly her down here as much as possible. It would, it's just my mum.
That's beautiful. If you're suffering from writer's block or just a creativity block, what's your go-to move?
Always live music.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just go and try to see new bands, I suppose, that I haven't heard before, or I watch Japanese or Italian horror.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's what I do. Or I smoke a joint. I have whiskey. It's lots of stuff. I mean, I think the one thing that I'm quite lucky about is I never feel pressure to create anything. And pretty much all my work has always come from just like an organic need. And every time I finish something, I'm like, fuck, I'll never make anything ever again. Like, I can't even imagine what my next thing will look like or whatever. And then all of a sudden, something does always actually end up happening, which does kind of start something. But a friend and I, as I said to you before, have started trying to shoot more just to challenge ourselves kind of on the fly by throwing words or songs or whatever at the other person and pretty much having to put together some sort of shoot or whatever within a week. So I suppose that's kind of a different approach, but generally, if I'm feeling sort of like a little bit stuck, in all honesty, it is cleaning. I fucking clean everything, my whole space. And then, whiskey, a joint if it's around, and music.
It's really it's good that you don't feel pressured to create, because I can imagine a lot of artists, especially artists that rely on their creativity to make a living.
Yeah.
And I've had a mild taste of that years ago,
course.
like with pressure from a record label to put out an album or whatnot.
Yeah.
So they say, okay, go into a studio and write an album, and it's just not that. It's not that simple.
Yeah, no, totally. I can totally appreciate that. I don't have that pressure. I don't know whether it will change in like years to come, but I'm hoping not. Yeah.
Yeah. What's one thing you wish they taught you at school?
I wish they taught me more about. How do I explain it? I think. No, I don't. I guess I wish. I suppose for me though, because I was gonna say, I guess I wish they taught me more about, because I was definitely like I'm not really friends with anyone I went to school with anymore. Like, I definitely couldn't wait to get out of there. But I feel like the fact that there wasn't enough knowledge about identity, about like the things I wanted to know about the world, it forced me to go and seek it out myself. So for me, I mean, I think these days there's so many things that they need to be teaching in school, but for me, I'm not that like, I think it just made me antsy to get out into the world and learn and study and read, pick up a guitar and teach myself how to play it. And I think because of that, that is sort of like, I'm not someone who I suppose is used to having things come easy. Every collection that I design comes from a very genuine place, and I really seek out the knowledge in order to feel like I I'm well informed in a way to put that into the world. And I think that it's just because at school I didn't find anything particularly stimulating. So it made me realize that I needed to find that stimulation on my own. So yeah.
Great answer.
Cool.
Any favourite books or podcasts?
My favourite book is Le Fleur du Mal, which is basically, I based my one of my last collections on it. It's a book of poetry written by a French author who his name's like Charles Baudelaire. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. But it's basically a book of poetry, and it's one of the first books of poetry that dealt with bondage, lesbianism, females enjoying sex, heaven fucking forbid. And some of the poems were actually literally put in prison because the content was thought to be so controversial.
Yeah, I read about this in
Yes!
your memoirs,
Yeah.
which I encourage everyone to go and read.
Yes,
on your website.
Totally, because it's fucking amazing. So that I would say is one of my favorite books. I've also got a little book called The Little Book of Loneliness, which is also super fucking old, and the pages are all yellow and gross, but it's amazing and cute and little, and sits in my bathroom.
Right. What's that book about? Loneliness, I guess.
Yeah, it's just a book of lonely poems.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Author?
I don't know, because it doesn't have the author on it.
Right.
Yeah. I stole it from a housemate.
Did you?
Yeah.
Rebel. If you could have a conversation with your 18-year-old self, what advice would you tell her?
Do you know what? I'd actually probably tell her that that you don't owe men anything. Yeah, because I definitely think that has been a struggle. Like, I'm not sort of like that anymore, but I think I definitely have felt particular pressures from society and expectations, and I would definitely tell her that and I have 100%. My brothers are incredible. I've always been very blessed to be surrounded by men who are empowering, but I've also definitely encountered some very dark men who have look, all I can say is that they've made me the point that I've reached because of those encounters. I'm very lucky that I suppose I'm the type of person and have had the type of support that means that I could turn all of that into a positive, leading a positive life, I suppose. But yeah, I think if I could tell her one thing, it would be, that you don't owe them anything.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Alabama, this has been fantastic.
Yes.
I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Awesome.
Tell everyone how they can find you.
Oh, look, easiest is, I suppose, Instagram at Alabama Blonde. But otherwise, yeah, my website, which is just www.alabamablonde.com. Yeah.
And what's coming up?
What is coming up is I do have 2 new collections. They're basically 2 separate capsules, which I'm in the middle of creating. And I definitely spending a lot more time in LA because it's all just, I think I may put on some sort of last little moment here. But then I do think at the moment a lot of my attention is over there. Just because, yeah, there's a lot happening over there.
Yeah. Yeah. You definitely have to keep us posted.
I shall.
I really want to get to one of these shows.
Yes!
It's fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for doing this.
You're so welcome.
I think you're doing amazing things.
Thank you.
And I've really enjoyed sort of watching your progress
Yeah,
throughout
thank
the
you
years.
so much.
It's amazing.
Thank you.
Hey guys, Aaron again. Just wanted to say thanks for checking the show out. Hopefully you got something out of it. Make sure you hit me up on Instagram at The Writer's Block AU, and we're also on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and all the rest. It's not hard to find us. Would love to hear what you think of the show, and if you have any suggestions of who you'd like to see on the show, please let me know that too. Lastly, if you can leave a review on whatever platform you listen to this on, that would be awesome. And, it just helps to get the podcast into more ears. All right, see you next time.